is up, beautiful people of the internet? My name is Wesley.
I'm Stephanie.
And this is Wes and Steph. Damn!
That's synchronized.
That's a new intro. I like it.
Nice job.
That being said, guys, we are reacting to I Spend a Day with Multiple Personalities, Dissociative Identity Disorder by Anthony Padilla. A lot of you guys have asked for us to do this reaction when we were going through some of Shane Dawson's conspiracy theory videos.
Before he was canceled.
A while ago, and specifically more recently in his Jake Paul series, where there's been a lot of discussions of sociopathy and psychopathy. And you guys said you thought this would be super interesting for us to go through. So we're doing it because we listen to you guys. Before we jump into it, if there are any regular Wes and Steph watchers here, we are planning to take Friday off because we're getting together with some familia. But if you go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna. Oh, you go.
Okay. That being said, though, I have been doing some solo stuff that Stephanie does chime in on occasionally, and I'll link it in the comments down below.
I was gonna say, if you're new here, we subscribe, or well,
if we're new here, we subscribe.
Wow, I'm on a rough bender today. If you're new here, we usually react to really fun stuff. This is more educational, maybe it'll be fun too. I don't know, but subscribe and stuff, and we have fun. Let's go. Why didn't it go? Oh, it's going.
Dissociative Identity Disorder. Once called multiple personality disorder, it's a disorder in which a person alternates between one or more alternate personalities that function with separate memory and awareness and adapt with amnesia between them. The first detailed account of DID can be traced back to 1791, when a German woman...
So this is like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde stuff?
Kind of.
Okay.
Kind of. This is where my psychology degree that I keep in my back pocket, my BS in psychology, might come in handy just a little bit.
Ooh, now we're looking at Neuschwanstein Castle.
Woman began speaking perfect French and behaving like a French aristocrat, despite never having learned French or even having been to France. Although appearing extremely rare to the general public, it's estimated that between 1 to 3% of the global population may have this disorder.
Wow, that's high.
I have a hard time believing that.
That's really high.
Anthony Padilla. Oh, do you know who Anthony Padilla is?
No.
Now that I have paused it on a very unflattering still frame of him, no, he's a very handsome man. This is my bad. But he's one half of Smosh. Did you
I watched that maybe years and years ago, but I don't remember the people
I used to watch Smosh like 10 years ago. This is my first time watching Anthony's solo content, though, so I'm super excited. I was a fan of him like 10 years ago, and it was no hate. I just graduated.
My name's Anthony Padilla, and today I'm going to be sitting down with people who dissociate into fragmented identities to learn the truth behind this heavily misunderstood disorder. Does DID access hidden capabilities and skills within the brain, allowing people to harness brain power in a way others simply aren't capable of? Or does it keep them feeling bogged down and restricted from participating in normality? Are they openly proud of their disorder? Or has the media's portrayal of DID forced them to live a life of alienation and solitude, too worried of what their presence will unleash in others?
So what I remember from my psych classes is that this is a super highly debated disease within psychology.
Okay.
That's what I remember. So I'm kind of going into this with a healthy skepticism, but what I do remember is it's tied to trauma.
Really?
Yeah, so from what I remember is the main theory is that it's tied to trauma and like you dissociate from yourself in order to sort of like protect and cope with whatever trauma you're going through.
That makes sense.
That's at least what I remember.
Huh.
Hi, Amanda. Hi, the Redwoods. Nin.
Hi.
That's a lot of people.
Thank you so much for coming out and teaching me about the wondrous world of dissociative identity disorder.
Anthony, there's so much to learn.
What do you consider yourself? Someone with dissociative identity disorder? Someone with multiple alters?
Yeah, just someone with DID.
We identify as we, and we identify as multiple. Sometimes we say we have DID. Sometimes we say we're plural, but multiple is the main word that we use.
I consider myself being part of a DID system. So you could say somebody with dissociative identity disorder, or if you wanted to refer to us collectively, it would be saying that I'm part of a system of alters.
Can you explain what having DID entails?
Yeah, so having DID means that as a child, your personality was unable to fully develop into one singular personality. Everybody as a child starts off with an unintegrated personality, and around the ages of between 7 to 9 in normal development. But if there is repeated or severe trauma before that age, then the brain can say, whoa, I can't deal with this. This cannot be my life, and we would not be able to survive if I was aware of this. So this trauma, along with the ability to dissociate to a high level and having disorganized attachments to your primary caregivers, prevents one personality from fully integrating, because the amnesia that goes up to keep that trauma away. And that's why if you have DID, you have multiple personalities rather than one singular one.
For us,
Wow.
That was
Anthony
really
just
articulate.
closes the note and goes, "Thank you for the video."
Yes.
I feel like we completely understand now.
She killed that.
That alter must be the university professor, because she described that so succinctly and clearly that I'm kind of blown away.
That was awesome.
Can I say my understanding?
Yeah.
And then you say your understanding? So it sounds to me as if when you're a kid, you basically are developing, you're growing, you don't have like an integrated personality yet. You go through some sort of trauma, your brain tries to compartmentalize it and deal with it by having different roles in different cases. But normally this would be like, oh, I'm myself with my mom, I'm myself with my friends, I'm myself with my work.
Yeah.
But in this situation, due to trauma, it's like, okay, I'm my work self that's unaware of the other selves because I've gone through trauma, so my brain has a self-defense mechanism to compartmentalize it.
I guess I'm confused how it's different for kids under the age of 7 to 9. And I don't really remember that time of my life.
I don't remember that time
much.
either. I guess that's what I'm kind of confused about. I'm trying to draw a parallel to myself now, and maybe it's just not something you could draw a parallel on.
Yeah, and
'cause
maybe
we're so
that's why we
different.
don't remember tons of stuff from our 7 to 9
Yeah,
years.
that's a good point too. So
like
we'll
when
keep
we
learning.
first started figuring it out, someone who thought they were the only person for like a long time, right?
Right.
Like as most people think, oh, I'm just the only
Because
person
that's
in
the
this
norm.
body.
That's
right.
what people would identify with normal.
Right. They're like, yeah, of course, there's only one person, right?
Right.
And you start to think like, what could this be? Am I possessed? Am
Whoa,
I
you
like
thought you were possessed?
like I wasn't?
I mean, that makes complete sense.
Honestly,
If you read Harry Potter, you have memory gaps,
I
right?
love
If
that
you're
you go
possessed.
straight for Harry Potter.
I mean, that's memory gaps.
Honestly, that would probably, if I started like blacking. I mean, essentially, I'm curious what they're going to describe. How they're going to describe it. But if it's like you black out and you're somewhere that you have no memory of, and you have like something you didn't have before, or people say they've talked to you, I don't know.
That would freak
honestly,
me
that would
out.
probably be my first thought.
Yeah.
possessed, but I definitely wasn't going to talk about it with anyone in case I maybe was possessed.
Yeah, that's the last thing you want people to know.
You're
if that's
laughing,
true.
but
I actually Googled
scary.
spirit possession when it got really strong.
Whoa.
Yeah. Fortunately, this was like 2012.
Yeah.
There was some article that was like spirit possession versus dissociative identity
Oh, so
disorder.
that-
And I was like, look,
I like that they
You're
said.
like, phew.
No, I'm laughing because of the title. It says spirit possession versus dissociative identity disorder. Not, hey, you're not possessed. It's dissociative
I
identity
know.
disorder. I like the article.
They're like, it
doesn't.
could still be
It's
possession.
like, you could be. You could have Voldemort in you, or
looking at that, and then I went to a therapist, and they were like, yep.
Were you stoked that you were not possessed by a spirit?
No.
I don't know.
Do you feel comfortable saying how many alters you have?
At the last count, which was actually about 2 weeks ago, I had 22, I think.
22.
We're 9 people living in one body. So we went from 3 to 9
Yeah.
over like 7 years.
I have 16. So there's 17 of us total.
I'm incredibly surprised that all 3 had such a high number.
I'm blown away by that. That's crazy. That's
I want to.
interesting.
I don't think we'll probably get it in this video, but I'm very curious about what the process is in the therapy
Count
session
it.
for identifying
Yeah.
and what like the definition is for like where the line between an alter is and where the line is for like, oh, you're doing, I don't know. That seems
Maybe they'll talk
at this
about it.
point that seems incredibly hard to believe to me.
Let's see.
Ranging from age 4 to eternal.
Eternal.
Eternal. She's really cool.
Whoa.
She's really, really cool.
Whoa. Do you show her frequently?
She fronts occasionally. She's the caretaker, so she takes care of the littles in our heads, and then occasionally she'll come out to take care of me if I'm not doing so well. So she kind of fronts in the sidelines and behind the scenes more.
First off, do you prefer to be referred to as single or plural?
Well, it depends who you're talking to. If you're talking about me, as in me, the person sat in front of you talking to you with my personality, then it's me, one person as Nin. But if I was, let's say, co-con, so there was more than one person essentially in the driving seat, then it would be we, more than one person.
How might a normal day be different for you?
Who wants to answer this question? So this is Z. So it was like a combination of Ali and Eliza talking before.
Oh, okay.
We can kind of blend sometimes. So when we first came into what we would call co-consciousness, and that's a pretty common term, which is the shared experience of kind of...
Can I just say, I'm incredibly surprised at how articulate and how... I was very much expecting each of these interviews to be very jointed and jumping around, especially when the first Nin, I guess was her name, gave us the explanation. And she said, oh, there's amnesia between each personality type. I was expecting the interviews to be very disjointed.
They're not.
And I was also surprised, like this might sound corny as shit, but every portrayal of DID that I've seen had very different voices.
Oh, really?
In media, just to be clear.
If he's already switched.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't notice a change in the voices.
No.
And that surprises me. I'm just saying, like, how my expectations are living up to what we're seeing.
Being able to talk to each other. A lot of people don't have that, and they're basically, like, coordinating in the dark with someone who's not there when they're there. And so, like, you might be doing something and then come back, and it's 3 days or 3 weeks later, and your life has been lived, and all kinds of stuff is happening. I have a friend who would be heading one place, and then someone would switch, and then they'd head back home, and then they'd switch and head back and forth, and it'd take like 4 hours to get out of that loop until the same person came back and was like, no, we're actually going here. And what they learned to do is to text themselves or leave notes on their iPhone and read those. And so it's kind of when you come to the front and you feel disoriented, you can read those notes.
It's almost like having amnesia and leaving notes for yourself.
No, it's called dissociative amnesia is like basically the term for that.
I was in the bath.
What a great coping mechanism.
I wonder how much that differs because there's certain types of amnesia where you can't recall, like you have short-term memory loss. I wonder what would differentiate short-term memory loss from dissociative amnesia.
You remember like an hour or two ago, whereas that person with short-term memory loss wouldn't remember that hour.
No, they do.
Really?
Yes, like some people with, I guess not an hour ago, but some people with short-term memory loss, they can remember everything up to the point that they had maybe a traumatic brain injury or something, and then everything after that is constantly forgotten. So I guess to your point, what you said makes perfect sense,
I just switched out, so I had no memory of what happened before. Didn't remember getting in the bath because it wasn't me. It was my alter Kyle, who's my primary protector, and he'd apparently decided that he wanted a snack while he was in the bath, and there was just this half-eaten banana on like the shampoo holder, and I was like, what? Why? That's disgusting.
So you just realized that you are in a bathtub with a half-eaten banana.
Yeah, like peeled. It was pretty beautifully presented, actually.
How do you feel about the different labels in terms of personality, alters, identities, multiple?
Yeah, there are a lot of people who don't like the term personality because when a lot of people think of personality, they think of like how you act in a certain situation. So
that's what I was saying.
Some people, when I've told them about DID in its most basic terms, have said like, well, I have a completely different personality when I'm at work, and then I come home and I'm a different person. And it's like, I completely understand what you're saying. But it's kind of different when it comes to DID. So some people feel that the term personality isn't quite encompassing or serious enough. I don't mind the term personality, but the term that's generally used in the community and the scientific kind of side of things is alters, because it stands for alternate state of identity. So that's what we prefer to use.
Before we learn more about the wondrous world of dissociative identity disorder, I wanted to take a quick moment to thank you all so much for suggesting this video topic. I find the discrepancy between facts about DID and the negative stigma surrounding it to be so incredibly massive that it's super important, I feel, to cover a topic like this and allow the community to speak for themselves. So thank you so much, and of course thank you to the DID community as well for trusting me to cover a sensitive topic like this one. That's all I wanted to say. Now back to learning about the wondrous world.
What is it with like YouTubers being such good interviewers?
I don't know.
of dissociative identity disorder. When did you first realize that you have DID?
Well, it was almost exactly a year ago.
Oh, so it was pretty recent then.
Yeah, so I was having a panic attack, and I kind of felt myself as a consciousness retreat to the back of my own mind. So I was watching everything from behind, and there was just nothing there.
In 2012, yeah, so this is, so we just switched right there, really. So there was Allie talking, but then like Allie pulled away because this is Eliza. I was the one who was there and thought I was the only one. So yeah, I thought I was a boy, and I thought I was one person. Pretty standard, like, expectations.
That's how I grew up. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And then I just had this like weird triggering confrontation with a stranger. Basically what I understand is that I had a whole system of covering up all of this, a whole like strategy and everything, but I was so busy dealing with family member with cancer, personal life stress, housing stress, and then this sudden trigger, it crumbled.
Yeah.
And there was Allie and Z.
How did you feel once you realized?
Yeah, that I wasn't the only one here.
Yeah.
So the first feeling was actually overwhelming love and joy. I was
you
crying.
You felt good
I was
about
like, it was like a family reunion with these other parts of myself, other characters, but like protagonists in my life.
How DID works is the person who fronts the most often, the host, is generally the one who is kept unaware. Other alters can be unaware too, but the brain is built like that. That's why DID exists. You're not supposed to know you have DID.
Right, that's its entire purpose.
Exactly. So if somebody then comes to you and says, hey, you've got this, your brain is going to go, whoa, no, you can't know about this. This is the whole way we've lived our life in order to survive. I was seen by the crisis team after a suicide attempt, and she asked me to fill in some questions, and this one had been a little different from the others, and it was my first real kind of communication with one of my alters, Kyle, my primary protector, the banana guy.
The banana guy?
He's gonna hate me for that.
He's gonna watch this later and be like, yeah, no,
that's
we need
who
to have
I
a
am
talk.
now. I'm the banana guy.
Yeah.
And he basically saved my life after this, and I could hear him talking to me, and it was the first time that I actually kind of wasn't like, okay, yeah, so this is my inner voice.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was. Everybody else says, like, you know, your inner voice, you talking to yourself.
Yeah.
And this lady in the
What I find really curious is that they all seem to have like different genders, and that to me is really interesting. I
guess I'm still having trouble conceptualizing it and understanding, especially from her description, how that would operate differently from like a conscience, or you know what I mean?
it's hard to fathom.
crisis team was like, have you ever heard voices? Before this, I would not have given that a second thought. I've been asked that before and was like, no, definitely not. It was very much like a man's voice. It didn't sound like it was coming externally. Again, it wasn't exactly like a voice.
It was an interpretation.
But it was very different from mine. And he was like, I'm going to be with you the whole time. You're going to be fine. You can do this. And was like, you need to lie on your stomach now. And I was like, what? And was just pretty much shutting down at this point. And I was watching everything happen as if I was across the room.
You had an out-of-body experience almost?
Yeah, it's part of dissociating. It's called derealization, when you don't experience what's happening in your life or the world around you as real. It feels like a dream.
I've experienced that many times in my life because I've had severe panic attacks.
Yeah.
And in those moments, it feels like my body goes numb. I feel like I'm able to see myself and my actions from a third-party perspective.
Yeah.
And I've almost felt crazy because I feel like there's me and then there's a me.
I have people in my life who experience panic attacks, and I didn't really understand it, but it's terrifying, and the fear of experiencing one again is terrifying. And
That just feeds into itself.
And it feeds into itself.
It's also really interesting to me as well, because I've heard there's something in sports called a flow state, which is essentially where you're just operating with your training. You're operating in a sense of flow. You're completely and totally present in the moment and just doing. You're not thinking about what you're doing. You're just doing it, if that makes sense. And often athletes will report in a positive sense, the same thing Anthony's talking about. Like athletes who are in flow state will report that they
had
an out-of-body experience and were perceiving themselves almost as if they were like watching from above. It's kind of, I feel like I've had
Human
like
psychology is so weird.
Yeah, I've even, it just sounds weird too, but I've even felt like I sort of had like a change in how I was like viewing myself. I don't know if it was like an out-of-body experience, but it was like sometimes when I'm throwing up from having the flu, or I mean, if I'm going to be really real with you guys, being really hungover, I felt like it was almost like
you're watching yourself.
Yeah, does that make sense? Have you ever felt that way when you're throwing up? No?
Inside my head, noticing my outside actions.
That's derealization. You're dissociating from yourself because it's a traumatic situation. If you're having a panic attack, you are, well, it's traumatic.
Do you ever experience, for example, like you're recording something on camera and then you look back at it later and you are just then realizing for the first time
that would make
what
editing way
occurred
more
on
fun.
camera?
I did have a little while where I was like, I don't ever want anybody to see me like that. But it was coming to terms with, that's not you. And that's why it's okay. And if people are looking at my alter in this body and saying, that's Nin, then they're denying that other alter's existence. And I had to stop thinking from the point of view of that this is my body, I'm the only one who deserves to be here, this is only going to be my life forever. Because they've always been there, or most of them have always been there. They have a life and feelings and wants and dreams of their own. They've experienced terrible things for me and kept me safe from terrible things. Why in the world should the fact that we've experienced terrible things and suffered be another reason that we should have to suffer?
Do each of your alters have names?
They all have names, ages, and literally the personalities. They're all very distinct.
How do they end up receiving?
Her descriptions don't seem to line up with the other two's as much as the other two's line up.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're perceiving as well?
Names.
Oh, they tell me their names.
Oh, really?
And I have no idea where they come up with some of them. Because
Really?
I'm like, this is not something I would have ever chosen. Like, what? Where did that come from? Like, one of my alters' name is Freedom.
Freedom!
Yes.
Does that alter represent freedom in any way?
I mean, her first name was Pain, and then she switched it to Freedom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A very literal naming
so
system.
it was
like
for
a
her.
villain.
So some of my protector's name is Brad.
Oh, okay.
Like just
So
a very
name not protector, but name is Brad.
It's
Yes.
interesting. I wonder if that's like Brad and Kyle were the two protectors' names for the. I wonder why, if that's like sort of an archetype that they had of sort of like someone who is protective.
Yeah, where they got that from, or
Yeah.
maybe like they
It's
watched.
so normal, right?
Yeah.
That just surprises me if there's many sort of more eccentric names, that those two, there's like that specific commonality. Yeah.
The protector, his role is a protector for us, and his name is Brad.
Do you consider having DID a hindrance in your day-to-day life?
Even normal things like going out to a coffee shop or going out to the zoo, whenever me and my partner, who also has DID, try and do something nice, I don't think there's ever been an occasion where one of us hasn't been triggered. It's hard to do things that are simple, like walking around shopping centres, because certain things can be positive triggers, which can encourage certain alters to front. For example, if we walk past a toy store, it's an immediate positive trigger for our littles.
Oh, it's a good trigger then.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's safe for a little to suddenly be walking around. They're a child, so the brain essentially split off in some circumstances.
So here's that commonality where she's talking about the age, just like the other lady did.
But I guess I understand the concept of like you go through a trauma when you're 3 or 4, and so your consciousness dissociates, right? And I understand. So then there's an arrested development with that dissociation that's not integrated. I don't understand the concept of there being someone that's older. I understand, like,
You're saying someone that's older or ageless?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I understand the concept of arrested development and there being a younger child version of you. To be honest, it's also just difficult for me to, maybe I'm just stupid, but it's hard for me to wrap my head around the concept just in general.
Yeah, it's hard if you haven't experienced it.
We'll have split off and separated that area of life, those experiences. So while they still have access to an adult brain, and will be able to understand adult concepts and be able to use adult words, the way they process things is still the mind of a child. So they probably won't know where they are. They'll likely get scared.
Yeah.
I don't know where the body's going to be when I come back to. Somebody could take them. Yes, we're in an adult body, but adults get taken places too, you know?
Yeah.
If you are in... It's frightening not to have control.
Yeah.
And not to have memory, because you don't know what's happened.
That sounds terrifying.
It is terrifying.
I think I would wear like a bracelet or something that said like, I have DID and...
Well, then that would just make you a target for predators.
But like, so that if somebody's like, what is this girl doing wandering around? You know, that, but...
Then that would make you a target for...
I don't have all of the brain power.
I get what you're thinking.
I don't have all the body batteries. Like some of it's Ali, some of it's Z.
So it's not each person doesn't have 100% within their own.
Yeah, I mean, like it's 100% is hard. Like they're 100% of themselves, but in terms of managing the body, I do feel like on a somatic level or like a body energy level, like we have each different connections to different pathways in the brain and in the body. Like I feel more sensation in certain parts of my body. And then if Allie comes to the front and I go away, Allie's gonna feel something differently. She might even taste something differently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and like different people have some food preferences based on that. But unfortunately, we don't get to explore a lot of that because it's hard to go into a restaurant and be like,
fuck, it's hard enough to stay on a diet. Imagine if you were trying to
oh my goodness,
rein in multiple people on a diet.
Hey, there's actually 9 of us eating. Can you give us like this order and this order,
please?
Yeah.
Do you proudly tell people that you have DID, or is that something that's more of a secret?
I wouldn't call it a secret.
Right.
I mean, you know,
You're
doing an
here
interview.
in front of the world.
Yes,
6 million
but there
views.
have been, I am careful, because there have been times I've told people who have completely retreated from my life just because the stigma is around it. One of my alters, she's my 16-year-old, has purposely told people we have it to push people away when she didn't like them.
So it's a defense mechanism.
It is. It can be. For her, it is.
Yeah.
For some of us, it's better to not say.
I'm trying very hard to stay in the body.
Yeah, I
I'm
get it.
sorry.
If you need to take a moment, totally cool.
I'm switching, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Take your time. We got plenty of time, like I was saying.
It's hard.
Hey, I know it's hard, but you're so strong because you flew all the way out here, and and it's okay to feel these things because, yeah, like I said, you're here to talk about it. Do you want to take a quick moment?
Sorry, what?
Do you want to take a quick moment off stage?
No, I'm here now, sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
It's
No
Kyle.
worries. Hello, Kyle.
Nice to meet you.
Hi. Good to meet you.
Also, we're in a skirt.
Yeah. You're not cool with the skirt?
No, not really.
No.
I'm a bit uncomfortable.
I see you trying to cover it up.
Yeah, no, stop looking at my legs.
So you don't approve of Nin's choice?
I mean, I'd prefer not to be in it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, cool, looks great on her, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure we look cute as hell, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't personally.
You wouldn't personally choose it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you mind continuing this interview?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I know why we're here.
Do you proudly tell people that you have DID, or is that something that you keep more of a secret?
Depends on the person.
Yeah.
Like, if it's a professional situation
Yeah.
or something where if somebody does have, like...
Does her accent just change, or is it just me?
I think it changed a little bit.
It seems like it's a little less, for lack of a better term, polished to me.
Yeah.
Yeah?
stigma around it, or is very, I don't know, like not open to it, or a little bit oppressive around it. That could be like seriously damaging to whatever we're trying to do. Sometimes it's just safer to like not say anything.
What's the most annoying question you get about DID?
Honestly, the one that bothers me the most is who's the real one. Because that really is like, we're all real though. And also, like, oh, well, psychologists don't believe DID exists.
That's what I was referring to. That's something that's super common.
People don't believe it.
Like even in Psych 101 textbooks, that's a very commonly held belief in clinical psychology. And I have no training in clinical psychology. I'm literally just trying to remember Psych 101. But it is, I know it is debated, which it's very interesting, isn't it?
It's been like in the DSM and the ICD.
Yeah.
It's in there. Like it's recognised worldwide as a treatable disorder with, you know, a known cause, and there's a ton of medical evidence behind it. Like people have been in CAT scans and brain scans and stuff and switched while they're in there, and you can literally see different parts of the brain lighting up.
How do you feel about the way DID is portrayed in pop culture, like Split and Mr. Robot?
Mr. Robot is one of the more interesting, like, kind of positive ones. Split was actually like what drove me into plural activism, because I was like not planning on talking about it. What's sad about that movie is like James McAvoy said in an interview in Good Morning America, I think, that he watched a lot of YouTube videos by multiples to understand the role, but that he couldn't find anyone to talk to study for the role. So it kind of feels like a form of stealing, because then he took those kind of interesting physical portrayals that kind of were accurate, maybe pushed, but then used them to represent a really awful situation that I won't even describe.
Without even understanding the nuance behind it.
Yeah.
I think it offends me.
It's offensive.
We're scared people often. We're not monsters. We're not out to get people.
You know, that's really interesting. That makes a lot of sense. Like if you have undergone trauma to the point that you've dissociated, especially it seems like
you've had enough trauma that you're scared.
I'm kind of trying to put it in the places that there's so many personalities seems to indicate to me a pattern of repeated trauma.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that would make a lot of sense to me why someone would be frightened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most often hiding from monsters.
We had this friend, right? And after we told them we had DID, this was Chloe at the time, and they were walking, and Chloe said, I'm sorry, I'm getting switchy, I might switch. And this was like the first time this friend had seen them. And they were like, they looked really scared, and they literally moved away, and they said, it's not going to be a murderer, is it? Like she was 100% serious. She was like, are they going to hurt me? Do I need to be like, do I need to like be scared?
Was her only exposure to DID through things like Split?
I don't know, but we've also had comments on our channel like of people saying that teachers have used Split to educate their students about DID, as in like this is an example of DID. Like
how do you feel about that?
It is bollocks. Like
This person or this personality is so different than the one we just saw.
It's weird that it's like a different accent but the same voice though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Different accent, obviously with the hair and the skirt.
It's almost like watching an actor get into character in a weird way.
Yeah, it is.
Isn't it? Like it's so odd to me, and it's like my brain doesn't process it completely.
It's fascinating and educational.
It's ridiculous. It is so damaging. Like there are some stuff it gets right. Like it's done through trauma. There can be protectors and persecutors, but we're not superheroes.
Sorry.
There's no the beast. We ain't gonna hurt you. We ain't gonna kidnap you. Like people with DID are created with DID. It's developed because of trauma. We are no more likely to be dangerous than any other member of society, and in most cases we are less likely because of what we've been through. Most people are more likely to return to the situation of being a victim or being abused rather than an abuser.
What do you think the biggest misconception is surrounding DID?
I think there's the idea that it's purely dysfunctional, that it's obviously miserable. I've definitely had my rough days, weeks, months,
but it's not
years.
Constant.
It's gotten better. Yeah. And I think that's the part that we don't tell.
A lot of people think that it's really rare.
Yeah.
But the same percentage of people who have ginger hair have DID.
What is that, 1 to 3%?
1 to 3%, yeah, which means it's as common as bulimia, more common than schizophrenia, who either haven't known it or you ain't known it. If they don't want you to know, you won't know. If
there's anyone watching who has DID but maybe is...
Also, I feel like there's probably way more varieties of like the extreme side, and there might be some where
that's a like, really, really good point.
So when you say 1% of the population, it could be, you know, most of that 1% has this, but it only comes out every once in a while, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they only have 1 or 2 different personalities. Or alters.
I'm curious as well whether it needs to have this amnesia effect, right? And I almost kind of wonder as well, like if DID... It
probably doesn't need it.
Because if it doesn't need it, right, then I feel like... That's kind of why I'm saying I'm having a difficulty, like, conceptualizing it. Because it almost seems as if you need to perceive that you have different alters to have different alters, but then they're saying that they didn't know that they had different alters. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm just being straight up with you guys too. Like I guess I'm just having a hard time like conceptualizing what it means when someone does have DID.
Probably
and
the more
doesn't have-
severe cases are actually diagnosed.
But that's what I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
though. Like, what would be, how would a not severe DID case look like?
Yeah.
Or what would it look like? That's kind of, I'm trying to conceptualize. I'm just trying to understand.
Uncomfortable or experiencing fear about the idea of letting people know due to the negative stigma and judgment, is there anything that you'd want to say to them?
You're not alone. A lot of folks experience being many people, parts, alters, identities in one body. It's okay if it's hard sometimes. The world isn't set up for us to have an easy time as folks with DID.
Like, I'm dissociating now, and
It's weird they can tell when it's happening.
Take your time. Let me know whenever you're ready.
I wanted to answer the question.
You can answer it.
Oh no.
Let me know when you want me to ask it
There's
again.
somebody
for you.
else here, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Hi.
Hi. How are you doing?
I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
Do you want me to set you up with a question again? Do you want to answer this?
I don't know what's going on.
Do you want me to explain to you what's going on? We're in the middle of an interview about DID.
We have DID.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
And that's what you're here to talk about.
Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable talking about DID?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want...
I can answer the question.
All right. I'll ask the one that I just asked Kyle.
Okay.
And Kyle mentioned that Nin wanted to come out and answer this one. Do you feel comfortable answering this one?
I don't know what it is yet.
Okay. All right.
I can't answer it till you tell me what it is.
Okay. If there's anyone watching who has DID and is maybe nervous about the idea of coming out and talking about it with people because they're fear of the judgment that they might receive or anything like that, is there anything that you'd want to say to them? Any kind of advice that you'd want to give them?
I say
And you can say that to camera if you want.
the camera.
Yeah.
Without the man behind the camera. Hi. You have such good hair.
Yeah, doesn't he?
It's so good. When you have DID, you feel very alone.
Different accent again,
And
too.
it feels like you're going crazy. And there's no way anyone can understand. And there's no way you can have a good life. And this is it. It's going to be bad life forever. It's always going to be living bad memories, people thinking bad things, and it's not. And even when it feels like that, it feels so bad. And the memories are so bad.
It's okay, take your time. And if you want a moment, it's okay. And if you want to cut this part out or anything like that, we totally will.
Okay.
Yeah, so take your time.
But we felt like that. And now everything's different.
What's different?
We're not alone anymore.
Is that a better feeling?
I'm like tearing up. Are you
I
tearing
don't know
up too?
why exactly, but I don't know why. I don't know why.
It's okay, don't be sorry. That's why you're here. You're here to talk about this and to feel these feelings. But let me know if you want to stop for whatever reason. It's all.
I
This
don't
is all.
do you understand?
I don't know why either, but that got me.
I guess it just is like, fuck, man. They must have gone through so much pain.
I thought, like, seeing his personality, like the childish personality and how innocent it is. Like, I want to protect that too.
Up to you.
Somebody else is here.
You can let them speak whenever you want.
I'm really sorry.
Don't apologize.
I'm too small.
Yeah, it's okay. You have no reason to apologize.
What happened?
I don't remember the name. Years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Gave a really good response.
Can I still do it too?
You want to do it too?
I do, yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
it's okay to take your time with it. Nobody's entitled to information about why this has happened or anything deeply personal about how you exist as you are, but there is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. We see you and we believe you.
I actually have a parting gift for you, a
Yay.
Best Interviewer shirt that you can get at padildoshop.com, but you can have this for free.
Now 16 people get to wear one shirt.
This is Petra, this is Joy, and this is Z. Listen to all of us when we say, subscribe to Anthony Padilla.
That was awesome.
That was great. All right, you got 5 seconds to shout out or promote anything you want directly into camera. Go.
Treemunity on Twitter, and check out the pluralassociation.org. Some great activists are doing some organizing for our community.
Go follow us at Dissociative, and also if you're looking for somewhere to feel safe, there are loads of Facebook groups.
Definitely you should subscribe to him because 16 of us really enjoyed this. And
That's why you're using your 5 seconds?
yes, yes.
Thank you
that okay?
so much,
Thank
man.
you.
I
I
feel
wanna
like
watch
I
more of his
understand the wondrous world of dissociative identity disorder just a little bit more.
Thank you for having me.
After spending the day with these people with DID, I've come to understand just how nuanced the discussion of this disorder is and how important it is.
He was an amazing interviewer.
I
am so blown away at his empathy and the way he handled everything. His composure.
Because I will say, I mean, I don't want this to come off as insensitive, but watching a switch definitely, we weren't even there. It was very disconcerting.
It was disconcerting.
And he was just unflusterable, unshakable, and very reassuring through the whole process. And I don't know, man. I know that it's very hopeful and he's very positive. I just feel such a, like, my heart just breaks that they whatever they experienced in their life.
Yeah.
That, like, I just
You
feel,
don't want anybody to go through pain like that.
I just feel so bad, you know?
Is to be accepting and supportive of any and everyone because you never truly know what may be occurring behind the scenes. See you later. Bye, guys.
Press a like.
It's gotta be really hard to like hold.
Sometimes it's flattering that people want to like look after us and stuff. Can I tie my hair up? So?
Do whatever you gotta do.
That people will want to be like flattering and shit like that. But
Yeah.
sorry, can I swear?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I've been trying so hard.
Don't censor yourself. No, speak however you normally want to
This
speak.
changes everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You like Nin's jacket, Nin brought a jacket.
Please.
Yeah.
Oh my god, you lifesaver.
Yeah.
Can I put it over my legs?
Yeah. Do whatever you
Okay.
gotta do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought we decided earlier that we were going to wear trousers. I thought that was the decision that we were settled on.
She went above and
actually.
beyond.
Apparently, yeah.
Yes.
I'd be super interested to watch more of Anthony's content after this.
Oh man, I don't remember what I was gonna say earlier, so I'm sorry I cut off mid-sentence. But that was incredibly informative. Thank you so much, guys, for recommending it. I would have never even known this existed.
I would never have clicked on it without you guys. Without even if I'd seen it, I would not have clicked it without your guys' suggestion, and I found it incredibly interesting.
I'm just blown away, and I think
my perception's changed from the beginning of the video to now.
I've never seen those movies they referenced.
I haven't either. My only thing would have been I've watched a couple YouTube videos, like pop psychology YouTube videos about it in the past that were very much more in like the not Memento, but like Split or something like that vein. I feel like it's kind of a trope sometimes in murder mysteries as well, and that's kind of where I've seen it as well.
That, like I said, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde's kind of the only reference I really know.
I'm saying I maybe like CSI or some of those shows for me, and then I was remembering back to like Psych 101, which I took. Oh, wow, almost like 10 years ago.
It is really interesting how the media portrayals that at least I've heard of or know of, they don't focus on the trauma. They don't really mention it. I know that some do, but not the ones that I experienced. And then also that it's so related to crime, and I think that is really bad. I don't think that's fair to the people who are suffering and going through it. And I guess maybe they wouldn't even consider themselves suffering. They would consider it, something that's helped save them,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's definitely got to be challenging.
It's a coping mechanism, right? At its heart, dissociative identity disorder
is
a coping mechanism to deal with the trauma that they've undergone, right?
It's got to be so hard to maintain a job too, because if they have a hard time going to the grocery store or just to get candy, you know,
like doing an assignment or something. Like
if you don't remember what project you were working on, you know, how does that work? How do they live their lives? I mean, you got to pay for food and stuff, right? So how does that work? I'm really curious what they do for a living and how they make that work for them and how they function and get through that. That would be really interesting to me.
I think the biggest questions that I have after watching the video are what treatment looks like,
or
when they are working with a clinical psychologist, like what that looks like.
Do they want treatment?
Well, I'm assuming
there's
treatment of some. All three mentioned that they only figured out they had DID through therapy of some sort.
Yeah, but at least talking to somebody. But I don't know. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're trying to revert back to
I wasn't saying
quote
that.
unquote normal.
I'm saying I would be curious what therapy looks like. Is it about trying to figure out all the different alters and
helping them talk through things?
Or is it trying to like eventually reach integration? Is it not? That's what I'm saying. Like what does that look like? What does that process look like? What is the goal? And yeah, man,
that was crazy. And
I really hope
human mind is amazing. It would be able to do that.
I just hate the fact that
it had to have been trauma caused.
Yeah, that's kind of what I kind of keep going back to over and over.
Especially trauma
so young.
Because what'd she say? It usually happens before 7 to 9 years of age. That's crazy to me. Anyway, thank you guys
so
for
much
watching.
for the suggestion, guys. That was incredibly interesting. I definitely want to do some more Anthony Padilla videos.
Let us know what you think. If you enjoyed this, if you thought it was educational, if your mind was as blown as ours was. I know a lot of you had seen it before, but thanks so much. And wow.
That was incredibly interesting. And
I'm going to be like sitting on this for a while. Anyway, I love you guys.
I feel like I need to process it. That was super informative. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are amazing.
We love you. See you on Monday. Bye.